So, Shane Dawson has been under some pretty vicious attacks this past week, and, well, you know what that means. It's time to do some clout chasing. If you watched my last video, you may have realised that there's been a lot going on in LA YouTube, and let me just say, when is there not something going on in LA? I mean, between the Paul brothers, Tan and Mongo, and the beauty community, there's pretty much an endless stream of petty drama and borderline sociopathic actions, just every single week. But the most recent drama has involved one Shane Dawson, and the weird thing about this one is he's not really done anything specific. He's just being crushed under the weight of his past actions. Or more specifically, he's being lynched by Twitter after they've dug up his old actions. And since this is kind of an amalgamation of wrongdoings, not just the one, it can be pretty confusing to figure out why Twitter has really very suddenly turned against Shane Dawson. So I'm here to break it down for you. Yeah, we can't really address Shane Dawson's controversies without addressing these famous words.
I am not a fucking pedophile.
He do be kinda mad, though. Basically, after some old audio from his podcast Shane and Friends came out, where he pretended to be a pedophile for the meme.
I actually went to Google and I'm like, I don't want to see...
You could get arrested.
I know, but I didn't want to see child porn, but I just wanted to see, like, okay... Let me pretend like I'm a pedophile for a sec.
Okay, by the way, just for the record, police, I have nothing to do with this. I didn't know this. Like, you can literally get arrested for saying...
I know, listen, let me finish. So I typed in naked baby. First of all, I don't understand why anybody would be turned on by that. But...
That's the first good thing you said.
But... They were sensitive. I'm kidding. Okay, back to the Instagram.
Not to sound like an obnoxious TikToker, but that's some clown shit right there. And without even addressing the problems with what he said, the joke was just unfunny. I mean, not to say that I am funny, quite the opposite. I'd like to believe that I'm the dullest person alive. I mean, I waffle so much that I actually had to create a YouTube channel just so that people would listen to me. But overall, most people agreed that this clip was not much to be concerned about, just a little bit awkward and embarrassing. You could also say the exact same thing about my content, to be honest, except I tend not to make a habit of pedophilia jokes. I'm just wildly unfunny. Most people agreed, though, after Shane's apology that he could be forgiven, I guess, for two main reasons, I think. So, one, although the clip was unfunny, there wasn't much evidence of an actual crime. When the clip was contextualized, it just seemed like a really shitty joke that fell flat on its face and went way too far. But the second reason is why I think people actually dismissed it, and that reason is that Onision supported this view. In fact, I think he actually spearheaded the movement to get Shane Dawson taken down. And well, this might be a hot take, but I don't think anyone thinks that Onision is a credible news source. In fact, at this point, believing and distributing anything that's said in his videos is probably punishable by 3 years jail time under US federal law. Basically, as soon as Onision got involved, it was all over for Twitter's engagement. The movement was over before it even began, and people had soon moved on to bigger and better things, like fan cams and TikTok, I guess. But what 2018 Twitter didn't pay attention to, which 2020 Twitter seems to now have dug up, was some other clips of Shane's very weird, unfunny pedophile jokes. Here's a compilation for those of you that didn't ask.
Oh, Willow. Oh, I'll whip your hair back and forth. Oh.
See some hot, sexy bitches wearing my Hot Topic shirts. Damn. Oh, if Justine wasn't watching, I would rape all of you.
Work for us? I know twerking is insane.
Oh, I love you too.
Oh, I love you too. Now shut up and twerk.
I'm so sweaty right now. Oh my god, can you guys see my pants? Okay, good. No. I was like itching myself and I'm not wearing any pants. And then I realized I was on camera. This is a bad idea.
Anytime I do these tiny chats, I always say something or show something inappropriate. I feel like Chris Crocker. Wasn't that his thing? Back face, and then they'd hide their face and they'd be like, oh my god, I showed too much. And then once in a while, a little piece of boob would pop in. Just a little boob. And then they'd die.
I honestly don't understand why anybody goes on Tiny Chat anymore. I've never seen somebody come out and say,
oh, I had a really great time with this celebrity on Tiny Chat.
it's always some kind of scandal. I mean, do people just go on it to do skeevy things at this point? Either way, whew, this is not a good look. The one which involves Willow Smith in particular has faced extra backlash because the Smith family actually came out and said how uncomfortable the clip made them.
Shane Dawson, I disgusted by you sexualizing an 11-year-old girl who happens to be my sister. Is the furthest thing from funny and not okay in the slightest bit.
And I mean, that's kind of understandable. I feel uncomfortable looking at this as a bystander. Imagine being the girl in the image. To me personally though, these things just seem like crude, in poor taste jokes, which were unfortunately extremely common for the time. I mean, how do you think the king of predatory behaviour himself, Onision, got away with making jokes about Eugenia Cooney for so long? Old YouTube was just really fucking strange. Something I do find a little strange though is a clip I found of Shane and his ex-girlfriend explaining sex to a very young girl, without a guardian there to consent.
We have a question.
What is it? Very important question. And you don't need to feel shy about it.
No, you really...
It's natural.
It's natural. Is there anybody around? No?
It's natural for a girl at your age.
Yeah. So we want to talk to you. We want to explain what sex is. We did get really quiet.
Oh, where's the other peep? We should probably explain.
We'll just use peeps. Okay, well, one peep and then we'll use you.
Oh.
Okay. So I'll just pretend like that's, I mean, that works.
Lucy, this happens.
See, oh.
And then you're so happy when you're an adult. I can't believe I'm endorsing.
Okay, fess up. Who signed off on this? This is so uncomfortable to watch. We all remember when our parents would try to explain sex to us, right? It's a bit fucking weird, bit uncomfortable. Now imagine Shane Dawson, who builds literally his entire career on grease and pretending to be gross so that he can sort of act like he's not rich. Imagine that guy explaining sex to you as a 12-year-old child. Are you uncomfortable? Because honestly, me too at that thought. I do know that this is probably meant to be a joke, but it is a joke that has actual real-life ramifications for the 12-year-old they're featuring in this joke, which just seems a little immoral, to say the least. Long story short, Shane Dawson was crude and unfunny and kind of immoral in the early 2000s, and I'm just surprised this is something that we're only just figuring out. Following the theme of crude, unfunny, and immoral, if you're under the age of 16, you might not remember Shane Dawson's old stuff. Back in the good old days when you'd log onto YouTube, watch Two Girls One Cup, or maybe even One Man One Jar if you're feeling spicy. Maybe get groomed by somebody twice your age and watch Onision racing underage girls' bodies, which, if you think about it today, probably caused all the self-image issues you have. Like I said earlier, old YouTube was it was certainly a place to be. And back then, the peak of comedy was this sort of screamy, irritating humour. Think the people that make poorly put together edgy jokes today. Just make them louder. That's what early 2010s/2000s YouTube was like. And at this time, Shane Dawson made a very specific kind of video, and it was the same kind of video that Onision made, except somehow just a little bit more successful. Well, a lot more successful now. Onision's channel is dying. Instead of talking about it though, I'll just show you the absolute gems that came out of Shane Dawson's channel at the time.
That girl's so sexy. Dude, are you crazy? I think that's a tranny. What?
Oh, nigga, bitch, monkey woman, you're the best!
The day is nigga. How my life got twisted upside down, and I'd like to take a minute, just sit right there.
Hey, Corbin, you know what I want to do? Get naked, sing show tunes, and tickle each other's asshole with a feather.
Ching chong wong, ching chong dong ding dong. That means go buy my new song.
Peanut butter.
Uncomfortable doesn't even begin to describe how these clips make me feel. And yes, I know. All of these videos were from a very long time ago. And he's released an apology video. I mean, as long as someone apologizes accompanied by a positive change in their behavior, it's all good, right? Well, sadly, there's more red flags in this apology than there is in the entire country of China. So let's take a look at them.
And that is stupid. That is something that a child does.
So this one's actually a pretty big manipulation tactic. Granted, not usually done deliberately. By apologizing excessively, insulting yourself, or otherwise saying that you deserve to be punished or are a terrible person, you are trying to draw empathy and pity from the person you're apologizing to. And you guessed it, in this video, Shane actually does every single thing I just listed. And your first thought or response to this might actually be, well, what's wrong with trying to invoke some empathy? What's wrong with invoking empathy to maybe make that person see your side or even forgive you? Well, there's a huge problem with thinking like that. The purpose of your apology shouldn't be to relieve yourself of guilt or get forgiveness. It should be motivated by a need to actually repair the damage that you've done. And by self-flagellating, you're actually taking attention away from the damage that you've done in order to make people feel bad for you, tell you that you're not a bad person. So instead of focusing on trying to repair the relationship or any damage that you've done, you are actually trying to relieve yourself of guilt and get reassurance.
I felt like the biggest piece of shit in the entire world. I felt awful.
This is another tactic that's used to make the other person feel bad for you. Phrases like, I feel awful, I feel like shit, I feel terrible about it, are red flags for the same reason that self-flagellation is a red flag in an apology. It's fine to express your guilt in an apology by saying, I feel guilty. But when that becomes excessive or exaggerated, when the word guilty becomes awful or shit, it serves to turn the apology around and make the person you're apologizing to feel bad for you. And if you push it even further, you can actually make the other person feel bad for being hurt by your actions in the first place. An excess of self-pity turns the apology on its head completely, and often leaves the other person really confused and overall more upset than when you began. And Shane Dawson does this multiple times over this apology.
They disgusted me, made me sick, I felt awful. That the word blackface now will forever be attached to me, that's the level at which I have been lately. Just feeling very awful about myself.
And all this is doing for me is making me question the intention behind this apology.
I hate that person so fucking much.
No, I'm not talking about social distancing. You should actually be doing that right now. I'm talking about self-distancing. This is where you refer to your past self and deny that you recognize yourself or that you were/are that person. Now, why is that a problem? Well, when you do that, you actually shift accountability onto a straw man of sorts, someone who doesn't exist anymore, when in reality, the person that did those things was you. That version of yourself still exists out there. And funnily enough, you still have to take accountability for that person, whether you relate to them anymore or not. And for a video that claims to take accountability for your actions, you really seem to be shifting that accountability onto a straw man version of yourself.
I've had a lot of pain. I've had a lot of bad things happen to me.
And of course, we've got the excuses. Now, I actually had a whole segment on this in my last video about Jeffree Star, since he also seems to use his trauma and depression as an excuse for acting absolutely terribly. And I don't even feel like I need to explain why that's a bad thing. Saying that you did something because you were sad or broken or traumatized is actually completely irrelevant to your apology. I refer back to what I said earlier about how self-flagellation takes focus away from the other person and brings it back to yourself. And blaming everything on your trauma also does that. You shouldn't be bringing up why you did something in an apology, except maybe to say how you're going to avoid doing the same thing in the future. Because I said this last week, but the consequences of your actions matter more than your intentions, even if those intentions were driven by trauma. And your apology should equally focus more on the consequences of your actions, not what you intended to do by your actions. The sad thing is this would have actually been a pretty decent apology if it weren't for these things that I just pointed out. It's like he wants to make good points, but he's stuck in some kind of Twilight Zone where he is literally incapable of not trying to make us feel bad for him. So we can all say the year of 2020 has been a bit of a train wreck. And even that might be an understatement. And if you haven't noticed, we've all been stuck inside for the last 4 months. Now, some people may have used this time productively. I personally have spent all this time crying and slowly shutting down my arteries with sodium-infused pot noodles, which is, I guess, productive in a way. Every day I ensure I'm one step closer to heart failure. But Shane Dawson seems to have gone the opposite direction with this. My man has been dwelling, and I mean absolutely stagnating, on what happened last year. And a few weeks ago, he sent out this tweet, followed by some iPhone memos. And God, isn't airing all your petty drama out using iPhone memos on Twitter something we all left behind in high school? Use Twit longer like an adult so I don't have to squint to read. I'm just gonna read out the important bits of this tweet, or at least the bits that I can make fun of. So I tried to do this, I really did, I tried to read out this tweet, but no matter what I did, it came out to about 10 minutes, and every time I started editing it, I realized that I didn't care enough to actually talk about it. Basically, all you really need to know about this note is Shane Dawson somehow manages to waffle about absolutely nothing for about 4 pages of text, and yet still comes out looking like an absolute prick. It's baffling to me. And in it he talks shit about multiple people, mainly James Charles and the drama community, saying they feed off negativity and they wouldn't be anywhere without the tea, whatever that means. And Shane, I do commentary, right? I indulge in the occasional shit talk, if you will. But you know what I'd be talking about if I wasn't talking about you? Literally anything else. All of this drama that you guys are caught up in is very petty, and surprisingly, I don't actually care that much about it. I like making videos, I like talking shit, but at the end of the day, if this whole beauty drama feud stopped tomorrow, I'd probably just be glad to see it off my Twitter timeline. There's more important things in the world, man. And in the apology video that we were talking about earlier, where he also addressed some of his old racist stuff, he also addressed this tweet because he, I think, realized that it wasn't a good tweet.
So I sat down and I wrote that essay, which I wrote it to be funny. It didn't come across that way. It came across very angry.
Do you guys remember when you were like little kids and you said something super embarrassing, maybe because you weren't in the loop, and your automatic response was, oh, it was just a joke, because you knew that that would get you off the hook? Yeah, that's the vibes that this is giving me right now. It was just a prank, bro. It was just a prank. Maybe it's just because I'm lazy, but I don't think I've ever written out a 4-page essay as a joke. Not least because it's not a very funny one. Anyway, whatever, like, Shane Dawson make big paragraph. People upset. Very bad. There we go. That's the extent of the initial drama. God, are we still going? I think there's only maybe one more thing to address, thankfully. And that's the most recent of recent videos, where Tati did another 40-minute expose. My bones are growing weary. I think the most frustrating thing about these 40-minute videos is that they can literally be condensed into maybe 10 minutes. You don't need the whole 40 minutes in there. A lot of it is just waffle. She asks us to pray at the beginning.
Just cover this in prayer because there is so much healing that needs to take place.
And I'm really not sure for what, but you know, I guess we'll pray for her, whatever that means. The gist of the video is basically Tati is pursuing legal action against Shane and Jeffree, claiming they pressured and coerced her into making the expose on James Charles. The best way I can describe this whole situation is honestly the top comment on this video, which says, YouTube is like high school but worse. And I couldn't phrase it any better than that. All I've learned from this whole video is that not a single LA YouTuber can claim accountability for anything that they do. Yes, sure, Jeffree and Shane probably did lie to you. I'm not questioning that. But at the end of the day, you chose to make that video. And even if you didn't know it was wrong at the time, I'll say it again, consequences matter more than intentions. Even if they lied to you, and even if you were coerced. And don't get me wrong, that does happen. To people of any age, because at the end of the day, human beings are fucking stupid. And our empathy and everything like that often gets the better of us. But that doesn't mean that you didn't upload a 40-minute video calling James Charles a predator. What you're saying doesn't void you of responsibility, it just means that all three of you were complicit, which I think we all knew anyway. And it's honestly unbelievable to me that both you and Shane have had this massive feud over the internet while people are literally dying. I don't know if you've noticed what's going on outside. But I think there's some more important things than your legal battle. Especially when you've not really posted anything about, well, anything. You've not posted anything about BLM, you haven't posted anything about face masks or anything. And as an influencer, it's arguably your responsibility to use your platform for good. So why are you obsessing over something that happened over a year ago? LA YouTube is extremely self-absorbed, the ongoing story. Who would have guessed? Anyway, Shane had a huge breakdown about this where he basically went on Instagram Live, which, just a heads up, if you're facing fire for anything, an Instagram Live probably isn't the best way to go. I don't think going live full stop is a good way to go. But I mean, literally nothing good ever comes out of Instagram Live. I've never heard of anybody doing an Instagram Live after a drama and them coming out looking better. They usually come out, well, looking like this.
You're fake crying. You are fake crying. You are fake crying. That is not real. Oh my god.
For somebody who claimed to have moved past your emotional reactions when it comes to drama in your apology video, this is awfully emotional. He also rolled his eyes at the statement, "as a victim of abuse myself."
As a victim of abuse myself.
Oh my god. You are so manipulative.
Which, ooh, I get that trauma is never an excuse for your actions, and, you know, I had a whole segment on it earlier, but I don't think that you want to dismiss a survivor's story in the public eye in the way that you just did. It's like he has no filter, like, he can't just put the phone down for a day, deal with the drama privately, or even just make a video addressing it. Why did you go on Instagram Live in a panic. It's not my first impulse when I panic. Oh, I'm extremely upset. I'm just gonna go on Instagram Live so everybody can see me being upset. Was his aim to make people feel sorry for him? Yeah, he just dug his hole way deeper than it had to be with this live. Just put the phone down, Shane. You don't have to respond immediately. Alright, I think that's me just about hit my limit for obnoxious, self-centered YouTubers. Sorry about this one being, well, 2 days late. I've had a very busy week, and I didn't quite anticipate that the video I was making was going to be 30 minutes long. This is almost definitely the last video I'm going to make on this because, well, I said it before, there's more important things going on. And more importantly, I'm fucking tired. Next week is almost definitely going to be some low effort content. I can guarantee you right now. I'll be uploading as usual this Saturday despite me being a bit late this week. If you're still watching this, please like, subscribe, comment, you know, the regular engagement things. It really does mean a lot to me to see that people enjoy what I do or what I'm saying. I hope you guys have had a really great weekend. I'll see you guys this Saturday. Bye.